Hey listeners, your host Denny Corby here. If you're new to the channel, I just want to let you know that this particular episode is from the vault with our OG host, Gabe, and this is just good old-fashioned private club radio. Enjoy.
Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news, and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
Welcome to Private Club Radio Live, Tuesdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on the East Coast. Hope you're enjoying these live streams. They've been getting a lot of traction on the different networks. We've had some really great success on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and Facebook. So thanks to all who are participating in these. What I think is really nice about doing this live platform here with Restream is the fact that we get to have a live Q&A with our experts. So we're talking to really the brightest individuals in the private club industry every week. And this is your chance to actually ask them questions live in real time, which is really nice. So don't be afraid to use the chat today. We're going to have a couple of great guests joining us here in just a few minutes. We'll be talking to Brian Friedrichs of Capstone Hospitality, and we're going to talk about 3 membership and marketing mistakes in membership sales. He's got some really great tips to share with us, and we'll learn a little bit more about Capstone Hospitality. And after that, we're going to be talking to Layton Walker over at, he's over at Cirencester in the UK, and he's also the podcast host of Golf Club Talk UK, another of our shows on the Golf Radio Network. So going to have a lot of fun with both of those guys. Let me talk to you about some upcoming guests that are happening so that you should be aware of. Michael Crandall will be joining us next week on the show. Again, all shows at 10 a.m. Eastern Time here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We will be speaking with Robert Cerecci the week after, which I believe is, let me get my calendar open here. I believe that's February 2nd. On the 9th, we're going to be chatting with Joe and Dave over at Club Board Professionals. They're now working with Club Benchmarking. So really a cast of incredible characters coming on here to Private Club Radio. And again, this is your opportunity to ask questions in real time to all these folks. So get them ready. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to bring on our first featured guest of the day, Mr. Brian Friedrichs of Capstone Hospitality. Brian, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Great to be with you, man. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's get going.
For folks that don't know Capstone Hospitality, who haven't had interaction with you yet, please let us know what you guys do and what you're all about over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So we're a firm that specializes in direct membership sales for private clubs nationwide. We do anything from boat clubs, yacht clubs, country clubs, high-end private equity clubs, anything that sells memberships really. But, we got our start in golf courses. I've got a long background playing golf, tried to play for a living, did collegiate golf, was on various tours nationwide, South America. Couldn't make enough putts, though. That's why I went back into the business world. But we've really found a formula that works very, very well for clubs. Basically, we stay hyper-focused on sales. We staff one of our highly trained salespeople directly in the club. They look like your own employee, but we drive that whole sales process through them. We handle all lead generation. We take the sale from point A to point B. We create a strategic plan for your club. And then really the biggest difference between us and some other firms is we actually execute on that strategic plan. So we've seen some big successes throughout the country, some very well-known clubs, top 100 golf courses, and we're excited to continue to grow. We've already taken on 4 new clients this year, and just share what we know.
That's exciting, man. And I know you've got a golf background. Were you a former professional, Brian?
I was, yeah. So I played a little over 4 years. I played on the PGA Tour Latino America down South America. I did some web.com events, and then basically every mini tour you possibly imagine. Last year I traveled around in an RV. So that was really
oh my gosh. My wife is from Ecuador. Any chance you ever played in Ecuador?
So we didn't play in Ecuador, but I have been to Quito, Ecuador,
yeah,
which is like the diciest airport ever to fly into. Have you been there?
It is wild. Yeah, they've recently changed it. I think it's a little better, but it used to fly right over buildings the way you're going to scrape the buildings. It was
Yeah, no, it was insane. And then you have
crazy.
to like drop in from the mountains pretty severely. So yeah,
Because in this valley, yeah, it's a scary
yeah,
one for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So, obviously, walking into all these clubs, you've probably seen it all at this point.
Mm.
And I know today you've got some tips to share with folks on your top 3 mistakes that you see in membership sales. Let's start with the
Sure.
first one, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. So, whenever we first come into clubs, we just ask a lot of questions. And one of the things that stands out to me the most is they lack a plan, right? They don't have a strategic plan. They don't have goals. And I think that's a really big mistake that oftentimes club leaders and membership directors make. The best leaders, the best sales professionals, they all have a plan. They all know exactly where they're going, and they know how to get there. So I think that's very, very important. Say you have a goal of 100 memberships, right? You want to sell 100 memberships. From there, you can strategically reverse engineer how to get to those. So if we have 100 memberships we have to sell, probably we need to take about 300 people through the place, right? In order to get 300 tours, we know we probably need about 700 leads, right? To get 700 leads, we need this amount of programs. We need to spend X amount of marketing dollars. And then you can actually hit those goals. If you don't have goals and you don't have a strategic plan on how to get to those goals, you're really kind of left flailing around. And you're really not going to make a whole lot of progress. We've been to so many different clubs where their facilities are great. Their management is great. Everything is fantastic, but they don't know where they're going. They don't know how to get there. And without the entire team being on board with those same goals, again, you're not going to probably be able to make the movement that you want to make and that your club so desperately needs. I would encourage you to sit down with your team, create a strategic plan, set some sales metric goals, and hold your team accountable to hitting them. And that's going to help immensely.
Goal setting is so important, especially this time of year, January. This is the
Yeah.
time to really do it.
Yep.
Kind of new year. We were talking earlier before we started the show here, how quickly January is flown by. And that's why it's so important to make sure you
Yep.
dedicate some time to that. What sort of goals do you like to see? And what do you see as like reachable, attainable goals for most clubs?
Yeah, it varies. It depends on the market. It depends on where the club's at. If there's a club, we do some very high-end clubs that have $50,000, $75,000 initiation fees. That marketplace is going to obviously be smaller than a club that has a $2,500 initiation fee. And that's maybe in the heart of Atlanta. So it depends on the marketplace, right? But typically when we come into clubs that are doing maybe 20, 30, 40 sales a year, we're looking to hit that 100 number. And sometimes we'll go much higher, and sometimes maybe we'll do 95. But we also, behind the scenes, we track metrics on amount of calls made, how many leads are coming in, how many lead generators we have going. And really you have to track not only just sales, but how are you getting there? So then you can effectively manage your people. Because again, especially for us, we're managing people remote. We have to know exactly what they're doing. And we've developed out a software that tracks every single metric you could possibly imagine. And what's really strong about that too, is we can then provide that data back to club leaders and say, hey, we know exactly why people are joining. We know exactly why people are not. We know exactly how many leads we have to get to these goals. But I would say, around 100 members is kind of that benchmark number that I think a lot of clubs are looking to get.
Yeah, absolutely. I know a lot of clubs probably blew that out of the water in 2020.
Yeah,
because
2020 was a good membership sales year.
it's always good to set your guys' goals higher rather than
Yep.
lower anyways, I would think.
Yep.
It's just, if you shoot high and you fall, and you're still in a lot better place if you're higher. Doesn't hurt.
Yep.
Awesome. Number 2 on your list there, Brian, in terms of mistakes that membership sales make.
Yeah, I think a big thing is not tracking your lead generators, where your lead sources are coming from. Again, we'll go into clubs a lot of times and we'll ask them what their marketing budget is. It might be $80,000, $100,000 a year that they're spending. I mean, that's obviously on the extreme side. And then we really dive into what they're spending it on. And it's a lot of magazine ads. It's a lot of billboards, things that we actually know don't really convert new members. And we ask, how many, are you seeing any sales from this? And so often they'll say, well, we don't really know. And I just think that's such a mistake because, dollars are precious, especially when talking about membership. And you want to do things that directly correlate sales. So track those metrics, track those lead generators, and then you'll start to develop out some data points of, wow, we know that member referral program, that's obviously going to be a great source of new members. We know that direct mailers are actually starting to work a lot more. A lot of people are home. Obviously, online advertising is working really well right now. So once you start focusing in on what works and what doesn't work, you're going to be able to pour your resources to those things, and you're going to get a lot higher quality leads coming in.
Absolutely. I'm totally with you in terms of those non-trackable sources. Like
Yeah.
the billboard company is going to tell you that 100,000 people drive by
Right.
it every day, but does that really turn into anything? And then you've got the whole other thing where it's like, where did you hear about us? Oh, your website. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well, how
exactly.
did you get to the website? And so
Right.
unless you've got those types of things, you're using some sort of digital strategy, tracking
Mhm.
your member referrals, like you said,
Yep.
then you're just really just kind of throwing crap against the wall, right?
Yeah.
You don't really know. It's so important to find a winner. Like, hey, our Facebook ads performed, 60% better than anything else. We need
Yep.
to focus more on that.
100%.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I see
Branding's
that all the time.
branding's a thing too. I don't want to discourage from branding, but when you're talking about direct sales, like you said, you need trackable metrics and, to highly encourage everyone to do things that you can track and then track them.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. Even if whether that's impressions, leads, all that. Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Two incredible tips there, Brian. So give us your last tip of the day here.
Yeah. So last one's just the sales process. Again, we go into a lot of clubs where they lack a basic sales process. They maybe have someone sitting in the seat, or, maybe if it's an equity board, they don't have anyone sitting in the seat, and it's a group of volunteers that are trying to make membership sales. And that's just not going to work typically, right? If people are not hyper focused on sales and their sales process, you're never going to hit the numbers that you could potentially hit. And that's one thing we do really, really well at, is staying hyper focused on sales. But the sales process, right? Pretty basic stuff, timely follow up. Whenever we take on a new client, we secret shop every single club in the market. And you would be shocked how many times we'll inquire about membership. Maybe they're just on to us, but and we don't get a response. Or maybe it's a very generic auto response where they just immediately give us all the information, the pricing, and say, let me know what you think. And that's obviously just not going to work well. You need to be able to follow up with them immediately. Whenever someone inquires online, that's when they're most interested, right? So we mandate that an online inquiry or a phone call inquiry has to be responded to within an hour of the inquiry coming in, because that's when they're hot. That's when you can get them to book a tour pretty easily, get them in the door. The next thing is a lot of times we'll see what we call data dump, right? People will come in for a tour and they'll just rattle off all the information. We have a pool, we have tennis, we have great social functions, this, with that. And they're not really taking the time to get to know the prospect. And anyone that knows sales is you have to get to know the prospect. You have to ask questions. So what we encourage and what we train on is really the first couple conversations, you really shouldn't be saying anything about the club. You should be asking a lot of questions about what they're looking for in a club. And then from there, you can customize your sales pitch specific to what they want. So for instance, if you have a family coming in who's not really interested in golf and you're focusing on your golf course, well, you're not selling them appropriately. Or conversely, you have a single individual coming in that's, +1 handicap, but doesn't have any kids. And you're talking about the kids programming, you're probably going to lose that person. And rest assured that if they are shopping your club, they're shopping all the other clubs. And a lot of times what prospects will do is they will correlate their sales process, right? How they get treated during that sales process, the follow-up, all of those types of things with the club. If it's a bad sales process, they're going to think it's a bad club. And that's probably not even the case. So really focusing in on that sales process is so important. And then finally, it's the closed, asking for you have to ask for the visit. So many times people don't ask for the visit. So focus on those things. And I assure you, you will sell more membership.
Sage advice there. I agree with every one of those points. I think you're right. So many people just, when it comes right down to that last second, when you've got to ask for it, many people just start to clam up.
It's uncomfortable.
Natural.
It is.
Yeah.
It can be uncomfortable, right? But what I always tell our salespeople is they're there for a reason, and you're kind of doing them a disservice if you don't get to the root of why they want to join or why they don't. Yep. Because even if it's not the right club for them, find that out and help them make that decision that, hey, maybe we're not the right club, but XYZ club down the street, maybe it sounds like that may be a better fit.
I love it. Yeah, that's so true. It's interesting, your research there, secret shopping and how rarely people get back to you. But listen, I walk into a lot of clubs and I don't even get greeted in the clubhouse,
right?
Which I always think is bizarre too. So it's great that we've got people in the industry like you who are starting to change that and challenge some of those things. Brian, how do folks get a hold of you and how do they work with Capstone Hospitality?
Yeah, absolutely. So my cell phone is 561-445-7448. Again, that's 561-445-7448. Give me a call directly. We can have a confidential conversation about your club and its sales process. I'll give you a few tips and, we'll see if maybe it makes sense to work together. You can also go to our website, www.capstone-hospitality.com, or if you just Google Capstone Hospitality, will pop right up. And feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to have that conversation. It's a no risk, conversation. I'm not going to pressure you into a sale. Really, our whole thing is we just want to help clubs, and we've created a strategy that works very, very well. So. Would love to have an open conversation with you about it.
Yeah, I definitely encourage our listeners and viewers to hit up Brian, great guy in the industry and happy to help at all times. A new sponsor of Private Club Radio. So we thank you and Capstone Hospitality for helping our industry by helping this show, Brian. And we're looking forward to having you back here real soon. You'll be a monthly guest here on the show. So can't wait to get more wisdom from you. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. You have a great rest of your day.
Have a good day. See y'all.
Thanks. All right. That was awesome. Just the start of great things to come here as we've got our next guest about to join us all the way from the UK, Mr. Layton Walker. They're locked down over there in the UK. So it'll be interesting to get his perspective of what's happening, what the plan is for clubs to get out of this, and really make an impact as things begin to open back up. I guess lucky for them, it's wintertime, but it'll be interesting to have Layton on here in a second. Before we do, just want to give one more big thanks to one of our show sponsors, Restream.io, which is the platform that you're probably watching this over right now. Whether you're watching the replay or if you're watching this in real time, Restream.io has come on this year as a sponsor of Private Club Radio to help us take this show live. It's an incredible platform where you can live stream to 30 different platforms at once. You can get started for free, just to try it out and connect a few of your social platforms and see if you like it. If you want to do that, go to privateclubradio.com/restream and get signed up. I can't tell you how incredibly easy to use the software is and how powerful it can be if you're trying to really engage your membership. So again, privateclubradio.com/restream. All right, I'm going to bring it over to our next guest of the day here. Layton Walker is joining us all the way from Cirencester. I guess he's probably at the club. Maybe he's at his house. We'll have to find out. But hey, Layton, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Gabe. How you doing?
Hey, it's good to hear from you, man. Are you home or are you at the club?
I'm actually at home. Yeah.
Good.
We're sort of splitting things a little bit in home and in the office at the moment. As you mentioned just earlier, we're in a complete lockdown over here at the moment. It's been a real roller coaster and we're back into that lockdown phase. And unfortunately, we had a real surge in cases and unfortunately deaths sort of leading up to and after Christmas. So they've made the decision to do this. We're probably going to be right through to the end of February as well. So we're hunkering down for the winter and just trying to keep ourselves as occupied as we can.
Yeah, so it's been a hard 2020 over there, especially. I know a lot of clubs in the UK and Europe. They also rely on a lot of travel to come through, in addition to their membership sales or their monthly members. The focus has had to shift, I assume, this year. Tell us about how clubs have had to adjust over there.
Yeah, it's been a real mixed bag, Gabe. I guess, each club is different, has its own circumstances. And you touched on there that clubs that are probably reliant on international trade and a lot of the tourist trade have probably done it really tough through 2020. They just haven't been able to open up to that same level of traffic that they would normally have, visitors coming from Asia or America or other parts of Europe. So it's been an interesting story for them. And then on the other hand, you've got your typical sort of member clubs who have in a strange sort of way prospered out of the fact that golf's gone through this real boom. And probably a lot of people don't perhaps appreciate, but membership of clubs is very affordable in the UK, quite often £1,000, 1,500 max. And people have joined golf clubs in large numbers. So that's been brilliant for those types of facilities that are more reliant on membership. And then you've got other clubs that are maybe more pay and play, green fee based type clubs. And equally, they've probably done very well out of the casual golfer who really got stuck in through the middle of last year in the summer and when golf came back from the original lockdown. So, real mixed bag. On the whole, fairly positive. I think hopefully those clubs that are a bit reliant on the tourism side of things have weathered the storm, and hopefully we can just start to get back to some normality going into 21.
I hope you're right, man. Today was the first day that my kids went back to school, so that was a big step for me personally, just to get a little bit of my time back. But it's normality. It sounds like a pretty nice thing right now, Layton. Let's talk about some examples that you've seen, or some clubs that have had to do that pivot, and maybe some good things that have come out of all of this over there.
Yeah, I guess what's probably happened is clubs have gone back to basics a little bit. I think through force, I guess clubs have had to return to regulating play a lot more. We've seen play going back to 2 and 3 balls at times, which has meant it's improved the pace of play. And you've had new members playing with different members. It's just the way things have sort of worked on the tee sheet sometimes. So it's been great in that sense that it really has sort of brought things back to basics. But I think as well, a lot of clubs are really looking to sort of invest at the moment. They're using the winter and the fact that we're actually in a lockdown now. I'm sure a lot of clubs are out there looking at what they can do with clubhouses. I know there's quite a lot of work going on golf courses at the moment as well. But I guess one of the key things has been the communication side of things, Gabe, and how clubs have stayed in touch with their members or guests or visitors, whatever it may be. And there's been some pretty unique ways of doing that. I mean, I maybe come on to it in a bit, but I run a podcast, so I've quickly turned to audio updates for our members. So instead of just sending them an email newsletter, they've been getting an audio update, say once a month or thereabouts. I've heard of clubs.
Yeah, you're doing it monthly? And how long does that last?
It'll be about 20, 25 minutes. So just enough to give them an update on where we are, what's happening around the club. And quite often there's been a lot of regulatory stuff to tell people as well, in terms of how things are going to operate and tee sheets and where you can go and where you can't go, and food and beverages closed again. And so been a lot of information to try and get across at short notice. So to have that facility to do that has been really good. But I think as well, the online side of things is obviously exploded. And I even heard of someone the other day doing an online disco, which I thought was a little bit novel. It's
wild.
The jury's still out on that one a little bit. It's novel, isn't it? It's novel. But it's been great to see that sort of innovation and people turn to really looking at their facilities and oddly, through all the tough times, if clubs have improved their membership position a lot, or if they've seen a big increase in traffic, it's maybe going to give them some extra funds to invest. And they're looking forward now, saying we need to spend and invest and improve our facilities to make sure that people want to stay here, basically.
Yeah, I know, especially in the food and beverage side of things, and here in the United States, a lot of our clubs, almost every club here, they run their own food and beverage over there. I know sometimes you've got outside vendors that actually come in and run the programs, but how have you seen clubs try to adapt that loss in revenue?
Yeah, I guess again, each club is different, and ones that may be reliant on quite heavy function business, they will have suffered quite badly. But a lot of your typical private clubs over here, they don't make a lot of money out of their food and beverage operations. So in some ways, they've been able to shut that down. We've had a really good furlough scheme that's been operated by the government over here, which has supported employers in terms of paying for staff if they couldn't work. So that's been great. But to sort of more answer your question, I guess it's being able to just do what you can with what you can. So, for example, we've got what we call a halfway house. So little hut out in the middle of the golf course, and we've been operating that all year. That used to only be open a couple of days a week for sort of busier days. But, we've turned to opening that every day of the week. And especially through the winter months, that's been really appreciated by members to get around there and have a nice hot soup or a coffee or something like that.
Do you do Bovril there? Do you have that?
No, I won't say it's popular.
We got to explain that. So when I visited your co-host, Eddie Bullock, down at Golf at Goodwood, it's a famous thing there to have Bovril at the Turn House. So tell us what Bovril is and how delicious
it's kind of along the lines of a beef stock or something like that, isn't it? It's
it's
just
brutal. I couldn't
gravy or something like that.
I've had some of the strangest foods in the world living in the Philippines, and Bovril, I could not finish the glass. I had to apologize to Eddie. It's like sour alcohol, beefy broth. Like,
I
love it.
Yeah.
Hearty, and I guess hearty in the wintertime when it's cold, though.
That's what it's all about. You just want something warm and hearty. Yeah. So that's been great. And a lot of clubs have also utilized the takeaway side of things. We've probably for 5 months of 2020, thereabouts, food and beverage operations were forced to close. So takeaway has been an option at times. So some clubs have turned to that. And that's even getting out into the community as well, not just feeding your members at your own club or golfers at your club. It's sometimes been providing a takeaway food service to the local community, which has been great. Great.
That's awesome. Yeah. We talked about a little bit in terms of alternative ways of communicating with the membership. How do you think that the overall, how has the membership reacted? Have they sort of kind of come together through all this? What are you seeing in terms of like the unity of the members there?
Yeah, no, look, on the whole, it's been fantastic, Gabe. And I think, we have seen a lot of really good spirit. I think, the early days, and I'm sure you saw it in America as well, that, it was a tough time. I don't think anyone knew what to do. This was unprecedented. We hadn't seen it before. And there was a real coming together and clubs looked to support their members at that time. Sometimes that was giving discounts and credits on membership, that type of thing. And I think, members reacted really well to that. And some of them even waived that in support of the golf club, which was fantastic. So, no, the spirit has been really good. Like I mentioned before, you quite often see people playing golf with other people they wouldn't normally play with just because it's been so busy and tee sheets not been what they typically are. So that type of thing has been good. I think probably what we're seeing now, though, if I'm honest, is a little bit of fatigue. I think we've all much had enough of in and out of lockdown now, and we're also confronted with the fact that it's cold and wet and dreary outside. So you can't even get out and really do much in terms of exercise at the moment. So I think a little bit of COVID fatigue is probably setting in over here, but perhaps the light at the end of the tunnel is some of the vaccine side of things and how many people have now actually been vaccinated over here. It's up over 4 million already, I think.
Wow.
So
how are they rolling it out there in the UK, by the way?
It's a really massed operation. It's huge. Like I say, 4 million people. That's happened in probably 4 weeks or so, I think. And there's football stadiums.
They're starting with like the elderly though, and working their way down. Or how
that's right. So the elderly and the vulnerable. So I think at the moment, over 80-year-olds pretty much have been covered, and then people in sort of extremely vulnerable circumstances. So I think they're now sort of moving towards the 70s. I think by the end of spring, they're hoping to have everyone over the age of 60, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Right. So, it really is getting rolled out quite quickly. So that's the hope that, come the spring, we can start to just return to some type of normality, move out of the situation we're in at the moment and go on from there.
Yeah. My thinking, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not an epidemiologist or any of these things. I'm not in the government, but I'm thinking that here in the United States, hopefully by April-ish, May-ish, like you said, over there as well. We should have like the people at least who want to get it should by then have had the opportunity to do so. And I really think, when kids get out of school, which here in the United States is like late May, early June, I think that's when I think things may get back to some sort of, like it's never going to be the same exactly, maybe for better or worse. Cause like you said, some great things have actually come out of this, but I think we will see it a little bit more normal.
We're definitely going to be cautious for a long time. And I think your time frames probably aren't too far off the mark there. And that'll be as we head into some of the main part of the season. And in some ways at the moment, it hasn't been so impactful because we are in the winter, and it probably gives us all a chance to plan and prepare for the season, almost a bit like in the northern part of the States, really, where they're probably quite used to shutting down through the winter anyway. So I know I'm certainly using it as a real opportunity that we're doing a lot of planning, strategic planning, and just getting things in place for the season. So like they say, you just got to try and take the positives out of the situation and control what you can control. But we don't like to see the back of it.
Yeah. There's no sense really in stressing out over something you can't control. I think that's an important lesson for us all. Especially in our world, and talking about leaders of private clubs or leaders, business leaders, whatever the case may be, you're so used to being in control. So it almost feels like you're not doing enough, but everyone's doing the best they can. I think that's super important. Hey, Jim, thanks for joining us here. Good to see you on the live stream. Let me know if you have any questions for Layton here. We've got him for a few more minutes. If you've got any questions about how the game of golf or private clubs are doing in the UK and Europe, this is the guy. This is our chance to talk to him. So, Jim, thanks for joining us. Layton, let's talk about some of maybe some interesting places you've played or courses on your podcast. We should get into that, actually. Your podcast, Golf Club Talk UK, incredibly great show, very similar to what we're doing here in private clubs. So it's like you're kind of our co-conspirators over there in the UK, giving us the inside information. What have been some interesting interviews that you've done lately, or some golf courses that you visited and learned something interesting?
Yeah, we quite enjoyed last year. We did a couple of round table episodes where we got managers from clubs or people in the industry, and we did one which was UK based, and this was in April, so not long after we'd sort of first gone into lockdown, and we're facing some of the challenges back then. So that was great in terms of just sharing information amongst a group of people, but hopefully people that were out there listening, we're going to look into it and listen and say, yeah, okay, I faced that challenge as well, or okay, I like what they've done about that. So that was really good. We also did a European one as well. So we got some managers from different parts of Europe. So again, just threw the net out a bit wider, and some of the different challenges that we were facing there. In fact, it wasn't Europe, it was international. So that was really good. I had a great interview last week with course architect Mike Clayton, who's ex-European tour player and a well-known course architect out there now. So he's got a practice with Mike DeVries from the States and Frank Pont, who's based in Holland, and they're just starting to win some good work over here in the UK and Europe, but also I imagine they'll be doing quite a bit in the States as well with Mike based over there. Eddie did a great interview with Sweetens Cove last year. That's somewhere I definitely want to go. That place sounds amazing, and is probably on the bucket list. Might have mentioned it on one of the episodes last year. I went up to St Andrews and had a week or so up there and played a couple of courses up there, Ely and Crail, which are maybe not two of the more well-known courses up there, but both very historic and real proper links golf courses right on the sea. Crail's about 5 miles from the town of St Andrews. So that's good. It was a little bit trickier getting out last year, to get out and play lots of different golf courses just wasn't as possible. But enjoyed that. And the other thing we like to do is try and promote, women in golf on the show as well. We try and get as many female golfers or people from the industry on as well, which has been great. Eddie did a really good interview with a magazine called Women in Golf over here. So we really try and kind of scatter things around and get as much of a perspective as we can on the industry, and people just to hopefully take what they can out of it and implement it wherever they are.
I love it. Yeah, I enjoyed listening to the episodes. I used to actually edit the show, so I don't get to hear as many of them now that I'm not doing that. But it's always, I love listening to the show because you guys are so proper, prim and proper. Which I feel is like the opposite of me, but that's why I really get a kick out of it.
Being an
you guys
Aussie,
great-
that's probably a bit foreign to me, but
Yeah. You guys have great chemistry on the show. It's fantastic. So what's your release schedule? I know you used to be monthly. Now you've changed that up a little bit.
yeah, so we've moved it to two episodes a month. We generally send out one the second Wednesday of every month. There's one pretty religiously goes out then, and then I've thrown in another one towards the end of the month now as well. So sometimes that might be a little shorter episode, but we just felt just to have that little bit more regularity was good, and hopefully people can get a little bit more info.
We have a question here that just popped in. You should see it on your screen. This is Jim Simpson. He does the marketing and membership over at Tiburon Golf Club, beautiful
All
golf
right.
club outside of Naples. We've
Ricky
actually-
used it.
You've probably seen it, right? We did a show from there once, or two shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jim's question here for you, Layton. Has there been a strong upside to membership sales and rounds of golf through the pandemic, like we've seen here in the States? And what are some creative programs that have been successful in the UK?
Yeah, there's definitely been a big uptick. I was reading an article the other day that suggested that course utilization or roundage was up by around about 60% across the UK. So that's huge. That's huge. It has presented some challenges actually, because obviously when you get that much demand, it's getting everyone out on the golf course, and quite often we're hearing now we've got too many members and that type of thing, because people are just
How do you manage that? Because that's something similar. I've heard a lot of golf courses where members are now starting to almost be angered that there's too many people there. How have you guys handled that?
Yeah, it's been tricky, and I think for a long time, people have accepted it because of the situation. I think if we have another year where we're faced with that, it's going to get a little bit trickier. I think the reason there's been so much golf is that people just haven't been working in the same way that they used to, but also we've had these sort of extended breaks. So then there's been this surge after it that we've seen, and then it starts to just taper off a little bit. So, we're hoping for not too much more lockdown activity this year, and hopefully post-April, if we move into the time of year where the days are a bit longer and you can be playing golf till 9-10 o'clock at night here sometimes, that will certainly help. But it has been a challenge. And membership certainly up. Yes. Again, I've heard some numbers quoted at average of around about 10% across clubs. I know that's the case in Ireland, but I think it's a similar number in the UK as well. We've certainly seen a growth of around about 12-13% at our club, which has been fantastic. And it's where a lot of clubs have needed to be for a long time. So it's given everyone a real chance to kick on and prosper now, which is great.
And find new ways to really engage those members. I think that's really been a great thing that's come out of this. So a lot of clubs used the crutch of having, we've got a good banquet sales, we've got great event sales at the club that'll make up for any shortcomings that we have on the membership side. And now you're forced to really focus on the members, which has been fantastic. What in the beginning, Jim asked a good question here. You guys did a great job, I think, in the UK and in Europe in terms of like showing how safe and fun golf could be. Were there any really creative concepts that you saw clubs do in that first bit of time to get people engaged and excited?
I think there was quite a lot around the health side of things, and I think there was really trying to get across the sort of mental health benefits as well. I think that's been an issue all through this crisis, really, is that it's just not healthy for people to be sort of locked in their houses and not able to get out and have that social activity as well, which I think a lot of people need, especially as people are older. They might have lost partners, husbands, wives, etc. So it's been really important for people to get out. But one of the other nice things we've seen is people actually using the facilities when the golf course is closed. So, we've encouraged members to come up and have a walk, and we've seen other people from the community using the course to go and walk their dogs and get out and have some exercise in the fresh air. So that's been great.
I've always said that, building a long-term member, someone who's going to stick with your club for decades, that repetition is so important to get them in build the habit of coming to the club. I think one of the great things coming out of all this is the habit. All the habits have changed, right? And people are making a habit of getting to the club, of spending time there. And that's really cool that you're allowing people to do that outside of normal operating hours. Sam here has another good question for us. Sam's also over in the UK, and he says many clubs in the UK are becoming increasingly worried about their membership renewals in March and April. What advice or ideas would you have for golf clubs to maximize their retention rates coming into the renewal period? That's a great question, Sam. Thank you. Layton?
Yeah, no, I think, well, we've touched on the things already, perhaps in terms of engagement and communication. I think it's so important that people just keep engaging with their members. And sometimes it's not always great news or great information. Sometimes they're tough messages that you have to deliver. But I think if you do it in an honest way and you communicate regularly and honestly, I think that certainly helps. I think the other thing really is to also just keep investing in your facilities, keep investing in your staff. I know we're going to use this opportunity just before we reopen. We're going to do some customer service training with our staff, but we're also improving our driving range at the moment. We're about to embark on a sort of course master plan over the next 5 to 7 years, where we're going to see constant evolution and improvement on the golf course. So, I think you've got to display to your members that you have got that intent, that you are investing. There might be some members that aren't overly content at the moment about not getting a full year's golf in, and our club's going to give discounts and refunds and that type of thing. But in all cases, that won't be possible because, at the end of the day, it's particularly where they're member-based clubs that if that money is given away, it's going to have to come back somewhere down the line via the members. So a bit of thought's going to have to go on there. But I think it's really just demonstrating that you're doing everything you can to invest in your facilities, improve them, provide the best possible experience you can for your members, but also just play on that fact that they are a member of a great golf club with great spirit. They've gone through a tough time together, and sometimes that means coming out the other side and then hopefully getting the benefit going forward. So maybe just playing on some of that loyalty factor, if you like.
Yep. In the member club, they're the owners of the club. And, whether, even if they don't necessarily have equity, really a lot, you can build that loyalty. And that's great advice. I love the advice of the way my business consultant always said it is, Gabe, take people out of the pain of the present and put them into the pleasure of the future. And that's exactly what you're talking about there, talking about here's what's coming down the road. Here are the improvements we're making. Here's what we've done to adjust and pivot here. And here's what we've got moving forward. So awesome advice there. Layton, I mean, obviously you and I could chat forever. We probably should have a whole nother show just to talk about things, which maybe we'll see that come in down the line. You and I will team up on something, but thank you so much for joining us here on Private Club Radio today and lending your wisdom and what you've seen over there in the UK. I always think that helps to have sort of that cross-Atlantic sharing. That it's been really fun. So if folks want to find out more about you, Layton, listen to the podcast, what's the best way to go about finding out what you're doing?
Yeah, Talk UK. We're out there. We're Talk UK and Golf Club UK.com is our email address, but you can certainly get on LinkedIn as well if you want to get in touch with me personally. So more than happy to speak to anyone, and love speaking to the guys from the States anytime. Yeah.
Awesome, Layton. Hey man, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time here on the show. Definitely do check out the podcast. Golf Club Talk UK is absolutely one. Whether you're in the United States, you're in the UK, you're in Europe, Asia, wherever you're at, there's great lessons to be had by the folks doing it really well over there. So check out Eddie and Layton's podcast, Golf Club Talk UK. On the Golf Radio Network, wherever podcasts are played. Thanks for everyone who participated. Jim, Sam Poole, thank you for your questions today. I can't wait to do this with you again next Tuesday. So until then, be safe, be well, and we'll catch you on another edition of Private Club Radio Live.
Private Club Radio is brought to you by Concert Golf Partners, helping to preserve and enhance private golf and country clubs. Visit concertgolfpartners.com to learn more about the recapitalization process.